Boy, do I love this town. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Syracuse Football Postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. You got Brent Dax, you got Emily Leiker. We are here late into the night at Allegiant Stadium in Viva Cuse, Vegas, after an epic overtime 44-41 win in a game that was all over the place here in Vegas tonight. But at the end of the day, Syracuse football yelled jackpot. They got blackjack on UNLV, Emily. UNLV was sitting on 20. Syracuse got that last card. Blackjack. What a game. Sports, right, that we saw in Las Vegas tonight. A back and forth affair. Kyle McCord gets the ball back with 2:58 to go after he threw an interception. UNLV scores. It's 38-31. He drives Syracuse down the field. They tie the game at 38, go into overtime. And Emily, there was a lot of people that contributed to this win, none more than LeQuint Allen. He is an honorary member of the Rat Pack tonight because, boy, did he come through for Syracuse.
Right, and this is their second top 25 win of the season. Georgia Tech was the first. UNLV was ranked number 25 coming into this week. Second top 25 win of the season. First road top 25 win since 2010. And the first multi-top 25 win regular season since 2001. They had two ranked wins in 2018, but one came in that Camping World Bowl. So certainly an incredible performance. LeQuint was right at the center of it. Oronde Gadsden was right at the center of it, which I am sure a lot of you folks were pleased to see again. But I don't think Syracuse could have asked for a better finish than they got. They could have asked for a little bit better game, but
they did.
Better finish. No way. Fran is now 4-1 in the start of his tenure as Syracuse head coach.
And that's it, Emily. The difference between a 4-1 football team and a 3-2 football team, you can take a helicopter tour from Vegas to the Grand Canyon. Like, it's almost that kind of gap. And these kind of wins that separate you mentioned the rank wins that Syracuse now has. But, I asked Fran about this after the game. You take over this team and you're going through practice and he's challenging these guys. And the reason you challenge teams is to come through in moments like this, right? And it's funny because the example he brought up, Emily, was that, they're out there in the winter in 6 degrees in the cold. OG said at postgame, like the screw in his foot freezes if it gets too cold, and they're challenging each other. They're going at it. They're going through dart, the whole thing. But here in the most palatial palace in the National Football League and one of the greatest stadiums in the world in perfect conditions, all the guts and the glory and everything they've gone through to this point comes through in an overtime game. But, boy, you mentioned LeQuint, and we'll get into that a little bit more in OG. Listen, Syracuse had, we have to mention it, an epically bad night on special teams. They had two punt scenarios. One where Jack Stonehouse just had no choice, gets a punt that was going to get blocked, but he had to run with the football. UNLV gets a touchdown to that. And UNLV also blocked a punt and hopped on it in the end zone for a touchdown. Special teams matter. And special teams came this close, Emily, to costing this team this game. So, the win kind of puts a euphoric haze over everything. But Syracuse has an emergency at special teams, particularly in that punting unit, that they have got to fix, or it is going to cost them a football game. It nearly did tonight.
Yeah, I asked Fran about it post-game, and, he said he knew it was coming. I don't think he was super pleased to have to answer the question, but to his credit, he did kind of walk us through each of those plays there and what went wrong. I believe on the first one, he said one of UNLV's defenders came in a little late and shoved in on the inside, and they didn't adjust fast enough. And then the second time, he was like, that was a play we had literally seen them make on film, and it was like deja vu watching them blow by our two. He called them star players. We'll have to go back and look at the film to decide who they were, but blow past them on the line to get back to Jack. I mean, Jack Stonehouse should be protected the same way that Kyle McCord is by that line. Like, he should not be facing that type of pressure. So going to be interesting to see how they move forward and try to address that. I asked, what's the confidence level in Villano, which I think is a fair question after this is not the first time that we've seen special teams errors this season, and Fran got a little defensive and put it on himself, as he has done, and I respect as a head coach that he wants to put it on himself, but certainly will be an interesting situation to watch moving forward, and you want to see them make progress in it, and they just haven't yet.
That's something to watch going forward. It can't cost this team a game. It nearly did tonight. But the journey of LeQuint Allen in this game and through this season, Emily, from almost day one, Fran on every opportunity has called LeQuint Allen the leader of this football team. Kyle McCord's the quarterback, and he came in and had to establish himself as a leader, which he certainly did. Marlo Wax is back. Justin Barron, players that came back. But Fran always comes back to LeQuint Allen. It was this game tonight why he says that. Now, he had 4 touchdowns on the night. And as the night wore on, Emily, the tread was coming off the tires. He had a wrap on his knee. He was clearly limping out there. He was physically, you could see he was struggling, but he was not coming off the field. He said in postgame that his pain level was an 8 out of 10. But they both Fran and LeQuint talked about a conversation they had at the sideline where LeQuint Allen basically made it known he's not coming out of this football game. But Uncle Brent's been telling you about Yassine Willis, and we've got to give him a shout-out because Yassine complimented LeQuint enough tonight. He set up one of LeQuint's touchdowns with a burst to the side. It was funny. I brought it up in postgame that Yassine told me this week that his position is north-south, and his best runs were to the outside.
East-west.
East-west, right? He set up LeQuint's touchdown. He had his own touchdown in this game, so he had his breakout game. This is what I've been telling you guys about Yassine Willis and what he can do, and he did it on a night when he had to help out LeQuint just enough. But LeQuint refused to come out of the game and scored that 4th touchdown, Emily, where he dragged, literally, a UNLV defender into the end zone. So it harpens back to all those practices, all those moments where LeQuint has been the example of the guy that always puts the pedal to the metal in a moment when they needed him the most. He came through. I mean, this is his moment. LeQuint's had some great games and some great moments here at Syracuse. We'll see what the rest of the season brings. But this was the LeQuint Allen game in Vegas. And as I said, put him in the Rat Pack for the night. He was the biggest whale in this town on an epic night. And a 44-41 game, you think it's a shootout back and forth, and it certainly was in a way. But at the end of the day, it was a running back grinding through, getting one more play, Emily, in a game, by the way. Syracuse ran 96 plays to UNLV's 50, but it was that one that counted most.
Yeah, and not just the touchdowns from LeQuint, but he had that 4th and 1 conversion on the final drive, another perfect 2-minute drill for Syracuse.
Right.
We have not seen them miss one so far this year, and that's a credit to how much they practice that and go through the play calling on that and simulate that so that they can be prepared there. But, I mean, Allen had a great night, as I already mentioned too. Like, Gadsden had a great night, and what kind of struck me as we're sitting there waiting in post-game is, like, those are 2 guys who everyone wanted to come in and have explosive games every game this season. And there's a little bit of an expectation for that to happen. And fairly or unfairly, I think people have been a little let down by what I think that's been the general consensus. It's like, oh, we're not getting the ball to LeQuint enough. Like, why is Gadsden dropping stuff? Yada, yada, yada. But these are the games that people wanted out of both of them. And just to see them kind of show what they're made of and get there in this game, I think was a treat for everyone that was here in attendance. Huge Syracuse crowd.
I know the weather was perfect, obviously indoors. This is the home of the Raiders, though. I heard in the back of my head that old NFL Films theme, da 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 da, and he's just dragging a dude across the goal line. Incredible to see from a senior leader and somebody that, as we mentioned, Fran has counted on with a leader. The offense is getting a lot of attention. We are going to look at some key defensive plays as well. I mean, the defense had its issues tonight, let's be honest, with the missed tackles out there. But OG getting back into this game, 10 catches, 142 yards, both of those career highs for Oronde Gadsden after he comes off a 1-catch, 4-yard performance against Holy Cross. So we're in a town where you got to save your best hand for the best moment. Sometimes in poker, you just got to fold. You just got to check, check, check. Those of you that love the movie Rounders, check, 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 right? Until you find your moment and you go for it. This is the game he had to do it. And typical OG after the game, he's like, yeah, just doing what I'm doing. Nothing special out there. He recognized, of course, how special the game was. But as Fran said afterwards, too, OG's just, you never know what his temperature is. He's kind of the same all the time, and he's just out there businesslike. But this offense does not hum as fast as it can without OG involved, and that was a big thing to the pass set up the run in a lot of ways. OG had a huge catch in the flat to set up that LeQuint Allen run for the touchdown. A couple other huge catches out there tonight. I mean, bottom line, you need your big-time receiver in a big-time game like this, and Syracuse got one from OG in this matchup against the Rebels.
And it's having guys like them that make this team able to do what it is in those final minutes, and when it gets to play 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95 and onward. And I know, like, oh, well, they've had them the past few seasons, but it's them, but it's also Kyle. It's also Fidel. You know, I thought something really interesting that Fran said post-game was, like, I think he said he wrote on the whiteboard in the locker room, if Kyle McCord and Fidel Diggs have big games, we will win this game. And Kyle, again, threw over 50 passes. I think 30-something of them went complete. I don't remember the exact
I'll look it
stat
up while
line.
we're talking about it, yeah.
For 355 yards and 3 touchdowns, I do know that. It was 40 of 63, 3 touchdowns, 355 yards. Kyle had a strong night, obviously rebounded from a couple things, that interception late in the game included. And then Fidel Diggs made the sack to force UNLV to go for the field goal in the overtime period, which helped win the game.
Look, Syracuse missed a lot of tackles in this matchup tonight, but they, by the way, 63 passes for Kyle McCord. His 5th straight 300-yard-plus passing game. He continues a streak that he has set. No one in the history of Syracuse football had 4, let alone 5. And just to put that in perspective, Donovan McNabb had 3 in his whole career. Ryan Nassib had 7 in his whole career. The leader is Eric Dungy with 12. That's over the course of a career. McCord, 5 straight 300-yard passing games. 63 passes, 96 total plays, but they had to grind. And Emily, look, McCord and OG and some other players, Kyle McCord, of course, was a huge part of this. He had to overcome the interception. But the best thing that Syracuse did as this game wore on, and I know it's the cliche of cliches, but you have to take what the defense gives you. And Syracuse was giving, or pardon me, UNLV was giving Syracuse the flat, Pena, OG, as we mentioned, and Kyle McCord smartly did that when he had to make the big throw to Jackson Meeks to tie the game in that final drive to set up overtime. He delivered there, but he was challenged tonight. He threw an interception in the end zone that I'm looking at here from where we're sitting in the press box doing the podcast. He got away with the same throw on a different touchdown pass to LeQuint Allen. He played with fire. He didn't get burned there, but he got burned on the interception. But Emily, you can't write the script any better, right? Your big-time quarterback that you brought in, who's been in the big moments. Here's the ball, 2:58 remaining. You got to tie the game. There were some thoughts, and Fran was asked about this afterwards. Do you go for 2 on the road in a spot like this? In this case, it paid off. But, Emily, the reason we think about that is, of course, Jaden O steps in at kicker for Brady Denneberg tonight. And I know the special teams overall is in an emergency situation, frankly, but Jaden O did his job. He hit his extra points, and he made the field goal that mattered. When Syracuse needed to kick field goals out there, they didn't have to count on him to go out there and like drill a 40, 45-yarder kind of out of the range of a walk-on kicker in that spot. But we just keep checking the boxes of the guys that were challenged and had to come through. And even though the defense missed a lot of tackles tonight, had some penalties, had some issues, a lot of that just kind of gets washed away, and the things that bubble to the surface are the big-time guys in the big-time moments. So it's LeQuint's game. And OG stands out, but this is why you have Kyle McCord. He's got to overcome that mistake, finds Meeks in the end zone, and you're always in a game like this with that kind of quarterback. I know I sound like a broken record, but it really mattered in a situation like this tonight.
Right, and I'm going to transition us back to the defense because we did try to get there, and then we went on a tangent.
It's 2 in the morning. It happens, right? East Coast time. We're still, as we speak here, about 11:15 Vegas time. I don't know what time it is. I just know I love this town. But, yeah, we should get back to the defense and some things noted there. But certainly big plays made, all set up by each other here after about 3.5 quarters of what in the world is happening out there.
Yeah, you know, I think on defense, I believe it was Jaden Bellamy who ended up leading in tackles there. I'm pulling it up to double check. Yep, Jaden Bellamy was 7, and you'll remember that he made an exit in the game for a brief period. We weren't really sure what was going on. He went off on the med cart, couldn't really tell if they took him to the locker room, took him somewhere else, but he came back in that second half, and he did have some good containment plays on the outside. You know, there was a couple situations where he was the last guy out on the sideline with Ricky White or one of those other UNLV wide receivers and made that stop there. And then Clark, Barron, Justin Barron, Fidel, Derek all had good games behind him. And, you know, yes, we've mentioned like the defensive play wasn't always there. Offensive play wasn't always there either. I think one of the big things we are still waiting to see from this team is a full 4-quarter game of football. Second quarter again today was a struggle, like for both sides of the ball. Syracuse comes out and has this fiery offensive start, scores 2 straight touchdowns, both Allen scoring plays there, and then can't move the ball at all in the second quarter, which is the same thing that happened against Holy Cross. So we're still waiting for this team to play 4 quarters. But again, the fact that that we can be sitting there in those final minutes of that fourth quarter still feeling like have a chance in the game and can do that is light years different than the past 2 seasons have been.
Emily, we're in Vegas, and you know what you need in Vegas? You need luck. And Syracuse got some breaks. There was a big penalty on UNLV on I can't remember if it's the tying drive or on the tying drive, right? There was a interception right in the mittens. I can't remember. My notes are all over the place here. The player for UNLV, but he had, I think it was number 7. Yeah, number 7 for UNLV. Pardon me, I don't have my UNLV roster handy here, but he had an interception in his mittens that he dropped. There were some other turnovers that UNLV potentially had that went through their fingers. All these little moments that add up in a big game like this. There was a chop block on Big Spoon in overtime, put Syracuse in a 2nd and 20 situation, but then a roughing the passer on UNLV, which weird moment here at Allegiant Stadium. So they review targeting. It's still going to be a penalty on UNLV. It's still going to move Syracuse up. But when the ref comes out and he waves off the targeting, you would have thought UNLV won the game,
right?
With the fans really going bananas here. It was really loud, but Syracuse still gets the opportunity. The rest is history. OG makes the big catch just shy of the end zone, and LeQuint gets in. So you need luck in this town. And Syracuse certainly had some lucky moments out there that UNLV provided. But just to go back to what you said, too, it gets lost in the shuffle a little bit, but I cannot remember the contrast. I know Syracuse last week was good in the fourth quarter against Holy Cross. They played a perfect first quarter. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't be any worse in the second quarter. Yeah. The ups and downs of this football game. I mean, I guess the only thing I keep coming back to is sports. We just saw a prime example of it here tonight in Allegiant Stadium, which, by the way, Syracuse fans came in droves to this stadium tonight, and we really heard those Syracuse fans out there, UNLV fans too. They had one half of the building. Syracuse had the other. The upper deck is closed here at Allegiant for UNLV games, but boy, did we see Syracuse fans show out in this building tonight, and the trip to Vegas was worth it. If you can think of a town to be in to, kind of, I don't know, if Syracuse had lost this game, you're in Las Vegas. So you can still go have a good time out there, but certainly the party rages all night after an epic win when Syracuse put it all together here.
Yep, and we got to sign off here. We're getting close on our press box kickout time, but thank you guys for staying up and joining us, and we'll obviously have continued coverage throughout the night on syracuse.com if you are up and celebrating the win, or you can read it tomorrow morning when you wake up. Absolutely. So we're going to have, as Emily said, more coverage here, more podcasts, more coverage. Before we do sign off, though, because as Emily said, they're literally going to throw us out of here pretty soon. The press box is closing soon at Allegiant Stadium, but thank you to our Syracuse sports insiders that came to our meetup at the Venetian here in Las Vegas this week. We were overwhelmed with the number of Syracuse fans that came to that. You guys were awesome. It was incredible to meet so many of you here in Vegas, not only at the meetup, but in the casino, on the strip, here at Allegiant Stadium. Syracuse fans were everywhere, and you guys just had such kind words for what we do. And it was awesome to meet so many of you. And I'm happy for you guys that you're going home with a win at the very least. You're in Vegas. You could have a good time no matter what in this town. But what an epic memory to make that trip, a destination trip, and you'll always have the memory. And how appropriate that Syracuse scores 44 points. I was literally just reading an email where someone was like, I can't believe you haven't said they scored 44 points with the magic of 44. So you got it, Brent. You nailed it. Sometimes it all writes itself. Folks, we thank you so much for being a part of things tonight here on Syracuse Sports. Much more to come after this epic win. But thanks for hanging with us here, especially those of you that were watching live 2 o'clock in the morning East Coast time. We really appreciate it. For Emily Leiker,
I'm Brent Axe. This has been Syracuse Football Postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare provider for Syracuse athletics. The Orange come to Vegas, and they called Jackpot on UNLV.